This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Joshua.
Hi, I'm Joshua. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for asking me to speak, Robert. Welcome to all the newcomers. Sincerely, I was sitting there so caught up in my self-centered fear about, like, what am I going to say, and am I going to sound smart, and is it going to make sense, and are they going to like me? And we got around to that section where the newcomers were being introduced, and even though I'm a little bit nervous now, it was that time where I was like, okay, this isn't fucking about me at all. Like, it's just not about me, and that's so much of my life is just spending time doing loop-de-loops in my mind about, like, what am I going to get? What do they think of me? And I think the greatest thing that this program has given me is the ability to just push the pause switch once in a while and go, okay, it's not about me, man. Like, this is, there's a lot of other people, and I'm just like one little part of it. And that's something that I never realized in my life before I got sober, and before I had a program of action, and before I had friends that I could actually talk to about that made me feel less crazy in my own skin. I was also sitting there thinking, they say a lot, alcoholism is a disease of perception, and how different things can, or how the same thing rather can look so differently depending on, what colored shades you're looking at it through. And I was thinking, man, if somebody gave me 35 minutes to live, I'd think that was a really short time. But now I'm looking at the clock going, like, 35 minutes to speak, that's such a fucking long time, man. I guess I start this by just saying I think, like most of the people that I've listened to, and most of my friends that I've had in this program, that I grew up feeling very much on the outside of things, very much not a part of ever from my earliest memories, and really uncomfortable in my own skin, and really self-conscious. And I remember in like third grade walking to the front of the class because I had to give the teacher a paper or something, and John Packard going from his seat, he was like, "You walk like a fucking retard, man." And I've still to this day, I'll be like walking down the street sometimes, and I'll be like, am I walking like a fucking retard? And, and I'll check myself, and that kind of self-consciousness, it still haunts me, man. It still haunts me. And it's all part of that same thing I was talking about before, which is the self-centeredness, which is, of course, walking is being in the moment. It's getting from point A to point B. But it's not about that to me. It's about, how do I look when I'm doing it? How do I sound when I'm saying it? So shortly thereafter, I started doing things, like crawling in the blanket closet at my folks' place and burrowing underneath the blankets and just lying there in total silence for hours on end, which was a foreshadowing for my drug of choice in later years. But that was comfortable to me. That, like, nothing's happening, it's quiet, it's still, nobody's talking to me, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. Like, that was fun. That was aces when I was 12, just sitting in the blanket closet. And, and my childhood kind of continued on like that, and there wasn't any specific thing that I can point to and say, it was because of that. I mean, my parents really loved me, and there was some bad shit that happened, but I've talked to a lot of people who had it a lot worse, And, you know, I didn't have somebody at home going like, you know, why are you here? You're a misfit. What did I do? I never had that. I never had that in my real formative years. So it was just something that was in me. And something that I always really struggled with, like, okay, what's my place? You know, where am I going to find myself? You know, who are my people? Who feels like me? You know, where are they? Because they got to be somewhere. And I was in a little town in central Pennsylvania, and I didn't relate to anybody. And I was like, they got to be out there somewhere. And so in my early teenage years, when I started drinking, you know, I think it was twofold. I think I found some of my people, and I also stopped caring a lot more. And I think that was the greatest gift that alcohol gave me was the ability to care a lot less, or at least look like I cared a lot less. I also figured out around that time that that a really great way to stop people from hurting you was to make a preemptive strike on yourself. You know, if I hurt myself before you can do it, then like, what are you gonna do, man? Really, what are you gonna do? I don't give a shit. I just, you know, and I think that's, you know, that same form of self-sabotage is still something that I work against. You know, it's not, you know, and it's not so much like it used to be. It's not, you know, jumping out of cars or cutting myself or doing, but it's, you know, it's career self-sabotage, it's relationship self-sabotage, it's, you know, I'm going to get me before you can. And, you know, that really roots back to the fear base that I believe is at the core of my disease of alcoholism. But I didn't know any of this then. You know, then it was a good time. You know, it really was, because what drugs and alcohol did was, you know, allow me to put on a persona, which now looking back, I know, you know, that's not me, because so much of it was about the front, but it gave me the armor with which to walk through the world and not just get cut and scarred everywhere I went. You know, because I was that guy. I was the guy who got fucked up and didn't care and drank too much, and you know, and that was my suit of armor. And you know, and it kind of gave me a personality in a way. You know, because my personality was way too sensitive to walk through the world. So it gave me, you know, much in the same way AA has given me, it gave me kind of a direction for living. And I'm really grateful to drugs and alcohol, because I don't know, you know, around my mid-teenage years, I left home real young. You know, I went through boys' homes, and I went through juvie, and I went through all that stuff, and I don't know, you know, I meet people who they're like, yeah, well, I had my friends, and I've got the same friends that I had when I was 8, and, you know, and I got good grades in school, and then I went to high school, and I got this kind of, you know, I got this on my SATs, and then I went to college, and, you know, and they've never had that self-sabotage, and I respect it. I don't judge anyone, but I don't understand it, man, because I have learned everything in my life by doing the absolute wrong thing. And doing it enough times, it's like, you know, it's like the gentleman was saying, pain is a great motivator. And I have learned most of the lessons that I carry with me in life by putting myself in so much pain that I can't endure it anymore, and that I gotta look left. I would say probably about 16 was when I started using daily. I was also selling drugs at the time. I was drinking a lot. I was kind of just becoming attractive to girls and kind of finding that whole party world, and I think that's when things really took off. I kind of dabbled at 14 and 15, and then probably headed towards 16. I was like, okay, this is on. This is on, and wow, I can be loaded and drunk all day, every day. Wow. I think that was so weird after coming out of all the things that they tell you when you're a kid, and all the movies that you watch about how bad it's going to get, going like, no, I can just be loaded, man. I can just be drunk. I can wake up and I can drink cheap beer, and I can smoke a joint, and I can go out and do what I need to do until I start coming down, and then I can do some more. And it never concerned me. The thought never crossed my mind, that's weird, that's dangerous, maybe you shouldn't do that, maybe you should stop yourself. It was more like, awesome, great. Nobody can stop me from doing this. And so, so much of my story involves drugs, and I know different meetings have different theories on that, and I'm going to try to avoid the war stories on that. But what wound up happening is I moved out of the country and got involved with. I moved somewhere that I could drink legally all the time, so then that became even more of a social situation thing. I also got involved in harder drugs and formed a habit, and one of the guys that I was using with a lot overdosed, and I guess I was about 18 at this time, and I was the guy who found his body, and that was like. That was one of probably about 134 checkpoints that God came down and said, like, hey man, you could stop now and not do that to yourself. This is not the best situation you're putting yourself in. But but I think like most alcoholics, what I took that as is, well, I got to use different drugs. I've got to move back to the States. I should take up yoga. Anything but I should get sober and leave behind the one thing that's ever worked for me, that's ever made me feel okay, that's ever made me, been a social lubricant, and, been something that made me feel comfortable around friends and girls and employers and so I rode that out for a long time, and I don't know. I mean, here's the tricky thing to me about the self-deception of alcoholism was there were times where I knew I should quit. There were times that I knew I had a problem, but my own power of mental justification is so strong that that I could convince myself that I needed to do anything but get sober, anything but quit drinking and using drugs, and it made complete sense to me. And I can still do that to this day with a bit of time in the program. Me alone in my own head, I can convince myself that anything is right or anything is wrong. And And it all goes to the end of isolating me from you and making me feel alone in the world. And that's what my head is always trying to convince me, is that that person is wrong and you are right because they don't understand you. Or, whatever it is, it's my brain and my fear-based disease like to isolate me. And like to get me alone in a corner and just start taking shots until I can't stand up anymore. What wound up happening is, as part of the self-deception of this whole disease, was, things on the outside got worse and worse and worse. And I always came up with new stories to tell myself for why that was okay. All the things I never said I would do: never go to jail, never rob my friends, never rob my family, never get back on the drugs that were habit forming, never, all the nevers started, gradually creeping back in, and I found a way to justify them. I found a way to say, like, oh, it's okay because she left me. Oh, it's okay because, that job's not starting for another 3 weeks. So I'm just, so I got another 2 weeks, 6 days to live it up, and I will totally get my shit together come 3 weeks from now. And I was really sick. I almost said I was really slimy, but we try not to do that to ourselves, because I really do believe in my heart that it's not a moral issue. That the things that we do when we're in our active disease, in our alcoholism and our addiction, are just things that we do. Everybody does them. It's not a moral issue. The thing about being active in your addiction is that is your first priority, and you can look. You can have the best intentions in the world, and as soon as those best intentions to, the people who are important to you, or the career that you love, or the people that you want to stand up for, as soon as they get in the way of your primary purpose, which when you're active is to stay loaded, is to stay drunk, those priorities go right out the window. And so all these nevers kept on happening, and I really started. I started to take steps to try to clean up in any way but coming here, any way but like admitting that I had a problem to a bunch of other people, any way that I didn't have to come join something and tell the world that I was wrong all along. Because I kept saying I got it under control, I got it handled, and I would do. I mean, it's really funny now. I convinced myself at one point that I should hike the Appalachian Trail, and that's like a 3-month hike, man. I was probably 45 pounds lighter than I am now, and I was living in New York, and I ate nothing but like a bag of Skittles a day for like 2.5 years, and so I decided it would be a really great idea. I was like, well, I'll get off the drugs, I'll get off the booze, and by the end, like, it'll be this peaceful experience, and I'll be healthy. Not only will I be off the drugs, but I'll be healthy, and so. And so I went down to, there's this place called Paragon Sports in New York, so I walked in my leather pants and my torn Stones t-shirt, and proceeded to buy like $300 worth of camping gear. And then went and bought like 5 grams of heroin and another 5 of Coke and a few bottles of Johnny Walker and packed that all into my pack for my detox trip. And I made it like 6 minutes into the trail. And I stopped and I partied for like 2 days. I lit a fire and I pitched my tent and you know, hikers would hike by and I'd hide the needle and I'd hide the bottle and you know, and then, you know, my drug and alcohol habit was so high at that time that by the time, you know, like 6 hours after I hadn't had anything, you know, I would start getting sick. It was quick. So, which is, by the way, just to go back, the progression of when you realize that you can stay loaded all day, every day, and still do things. Eventually, you know, of course, you got to get loaded more and more and more and more, and then, and just to backtrack, you know, that's, you know, that's one thing that would happen to me is I would, you know, at first I'd get loaded to do things, to go, you know, feel like I was present with somebody, to, you know, to make a piece of art, to, you know, to feel comfortable in a meeting with somebody. You know, it was to the end of like helping me live my life, and really towards the end, what it became my life, and I don't know where that happened exactly. I can't pinpoint it, but everything else became less and less important, and certainly towards the end, when at the time that I'm talking about, it was about getting loaded. It was about getting loaded and then having ideas and never following through on them. Which is, I mean, the fact that I got out of New York City and made it to the place where you actually walk into the Appalachian Trail is kind of a small miracle. But you know, anyway, what happened was I ran out of booze and I ran out of dope and I started getting sick, and so I packed my tent back up and I walked, you know, the 1.5 miles that I'd made it in back out, and showed up at somebody's house and just banged on their door, and I was like, I was hiking out on the trail, I got really sick, I think I got a flu or something, can I can I use your phone? And I don't even remember exactly what happened, but basically what happened was, you know, I was going to detox this trip, and I got them to drive me to a motel. I got somebody to FedEx me a bottle of Valium, and then I took the Valium and I made it back across the bridge, across you know, the George Washington Bridge in New York, and had copped before I hit the house. And that happened so many, I mean, I tell you that story because that's a funny story, but the amount of times that type of thing happened, where I would leave to the specific end of getting clean and wind up drinking or using before I got back was astounding. And so when they say in the program, you know, no human power could relieve us of alcoholism, like, that really makes sense to me. Like, I get my powerlessness. I get my first step. Like, I really, in my heart, know that I had all the intentions of the world of getting clean and staying clean and not doing to myself what I was doing to myself, and I could not stop. And ultimately what happened was, I hadn't even talked to my folks in a long time, and I'd been out on my own for probably almost 10 years at that point, and my roommate at the time, I came in and threatened him with a butcher knife, which is a whole nother story, because I knew he was spying on me, and told him that he had to stop spying on me, and woke him and his girlfriend up at 4 a.m, and they said, you know, what the fuck are you doing in my room naked with a butcher knife, bleeding? And so I left the apartment, and I didn't leave because I left a note saying I'm going to the desert for a couple years, you know, tell my parents I'm sorry and that I love them. and left that note and split. And I didn't leave the note because I was actually going to the desert. I left the note because I knew they were going to read the note and run after me and apologize for spying on me and say, don't go. And that didn't happen. And so I wound up holed up in a cheap hotel on St. Mark's, and I finally went back to my apartment because I was like, why am I paying for a hotel? This money should be going to drugs. I have an apartment a couple blocks away, and they had called my pop, and long story short, I made him drive me down to Avenue D and buy more drugs, and I got a bottle of booze, and I had him convinced to take me to a yoga retreat center. Which didn't pan out, and he dropped me off in rehab. I don't even remember getting to rehab, and I woke up with no wallet, in the middle of the woods in this rehab, and furious, and I stayed there about 2 days, and then I took off AMA and I walked down to a payphone and I called everybody I knew and said, they're torturing me, it's a cult, they're Moonies, they're trying to brainwash me, and everybody I knew said, dude, go back to rehab, and we do not want to talk to you until you get out. And I went back, and I hate that I spoke this long and didn't get to the recovery, but I went back, and what happened was I just started doing what people told me because I couldn't scam anyone anymore. It wasn't even that I wanted to change. It wasn't that I believed in what you guys were telling me. It wasn't that I believed in my counselors. It wasn't that I believed that there was this other alternative, or that I could actually feel better inside. I did it because that was, that was the long game. That was like, okay, I'm gonna be sober guy, and then I'll get out and people give me, what I want again. And what happened as a result of that is, you start taking direction from people, and it starts working. And you all of a sudden go, wow, okay, maybe I don't know everything. Like, I know a lot of things, but maybe I don't know everything. And I think the first time you admit that, you get some kind of humility. You're like, what's this feeling? Oh, this is the fact that I'm not God and I don't know everything. And wow, weird. That's kind of a relief. That's kind of, you mean I don't have to control this shit all the time? You mean I don't have to keep this front up all the time? You mean it's kind of okay to walk out into the world and to be myself and to maybe trust a couple other people? You mean that's okay? Because that's all I was ever looking for. That's what I wanted when I was 7, man. That's all I ever wanted was to trust that enough, was to trust that the world was a safe enough place that I didn't have to pretend all the time. And through the process of getting here and going to meetings every day for my first year and a half, and doing what people told me and working these steps, that just kept coming true. I worked my 4th step. I read my 5th step to somebody, and he didn't say, you're a weird maniacal pervert and I never want to talk to you again. He said, yeah, I did that shit. Yeah, I know. That's what we do. And so all of a sudden that took all the power away from my secrets. My secrets didn't hold any power over me anymore. And I started having honest friendships with the people that I met in this program, and telling them what was really going on as opposed to what I wanted them to know or think was going on with me. And then that was a whole nother level of freedom that I started feeling in this program. I got to wrap this up, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it's really hard to. It was really hard for me to change those things, but it was the only alternative that I had. And there's some there's some assholes in AA the same way there's assholes everywhere. But by and large, the group has gotten me through some really, really difficult times, and has always been there to support me. And these meetings are always there to support me. And I've made the best friends of my life in this program. And really, the stuff that I worry about now is so different than the stuff that I worried about when I got sober. I've got a really fantastically amazing life that that when I look at it through my AA goggles, when I look at it through my gratitude goggles, is unbelievable from where I came from. Beyond anything that I ever would have dreamed for myself, because everything I dreamed for myself was always the outside stuff. And I really hope for the people who are just coming in that you stick around long enough that something that somebody says starts making sense to you, and you experience that psychic change that I never believed in, but that I promise you has happened to me. And happy birthday to the birthday people, and thank you so much for letting me speak. Thanks for letting me be sober today.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm alcoholic.
Hi, Jeff.
I'd like to thank Carol for Chapter 5 and Tamara for the 12 traditions. Are there any secretary's announcements?
Robert, I'm an alcoholic. I don't have it as together as Dave did for the last year. I need a lot of support, but I'm getting there. Let's thank Joshua for speaking tonight. And Jeff for leading a great meeting. And welcome the newcomers and out-of-towners, people who took chips and cakes. Usually we have, please.
Michael, alcoholic.
Hey, Mike.
Tonight, we're welcoming newcomers Patty, Young, Jane, Daryl, Laura, Joshua, Joey, Ray, Trish, Dominic, Sharon, Ishmael, Gary, Trisha, Valerie, Brooks, Steve, Henry, Susie, and Shelley. I hope that's everybody. Samuel from Tucson.
Yeah. Welcome, Sam.
30 days. John, Eddie, and Carlos, congratulations on 30 days. 60 days. Chico, I hope I got that right. Chico? Nico. Nobody for 90 days, 6 months. Shane, Johnny, and Stephanie.
Right on, Shane.
Sherry and Steve. Birthday. Cole, 1 year. Jay, 1 year. Congratulations. Maya, 2 years. Congratulations. Debbie, 3 years. Ryan, 17 years. And Mike for 20 years.
Before I turn it back over to all the people who have commitments in this meeting, stand. We will clap at the end if everyone can just check in real quick. Thank you for standing.
I'm Jay, I'm an alcoholic.
Jay.
And I'm here to represent H&I, the area of Alcoholics Anonymous. We help bring literature and panels into those institutions we all know and love, and it's one of the places I heard the message, and I really encourage everyone to get involved and give generously. It's a fantastic investment in your own sobriety. Thank you.
Jay.
Credit card, filling in for Mike on the books. They told me not to put the books back there because they get stolen. So come back if you want to steal the deal and I'll work it out for you. Thank you very much.
Dave Alcoholic Chips.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm Brian, I'm an alcoholic, and I'll be signing your cards at the podium after the meeting.
Thanks, Brian.
Mary, I'm an alcoholic, I'm your reader.
Mary. Ryan, I'm an alcoholic. I'm your coffee guy.
Melissa, alcoholic reader.
Paris, alcoholic.
I am the cleanup guy. Josh spoke about humility. I need 5 people that want to get home tonight and clean up. Hands. Anybody? 1. Come on. 2. 3. One more person. Awesome, right there. Thank you guys.
Vivian Alcoholic, I bring the birthday cake.
Thanks, Vivian.
Maya Alcoholic, I bring the food.
Larry Alcoholic, substituting for Patty tonight, Treasury. Our total contributions were $137. Our expenses were $90.50, and we were able to put $46.50 to the reserve. Thank you.
And we have a new CSR, yeah?
William Alcoholic, seat saver.
Thanks, William.
And I'm Linda Alcoholic, new CSR.
Right on, Linda. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, Linda.
That's all we got.
I recorded this meeting, if anybody wants to have a next week. I'm Dave, I'm an alcoholic named Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Dave.
I don't have it together, right?
Leader continue.
So Orion can take credit.
Ah, very nice. Leader continues after. Here we go. So back to you, bro. I don't know where. I think I'm missing a page. I think I'm missing a page of the format. It is.
This has been a regular Wednesday night speaker meeting. Thank you for coming and keep coming back. And after a moment of silent meditation for the alcoholic who still suffers, would Mary lead us in the Lord's Prayer?
Our Father,
Wait a second. A moment of silence.
That's good.
Oh my God. Our Father.
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory,